Ladies and gentlemen, ex-Trump attorney Sidney Powell will face misdemeanors, which are the equivalent of a traffic violation in the state of Georgia. Misdemeanors for allegedly trying to overthrow democracy. So, as always, Democrats and media make absurd, stupid leaps of logic. Trump is being indicted for running a criminal enterprise. And yet, just recently, the special counsel decided not to investigate one of the largest super PACs that he had. I spoke about that in the segment prior. We'll speak about that more today on this segment. And Sidney Powell, one of his attorneys, who tried to overturn the will of the people because Trump didn't accept results and he was running a criminal enterprise to overthrow democracy. Wah, wah, wah. They could only get misdemeanor. Basically, she essentially won a very contentious trial, or I guess legal battle, that could have sent her to prison if indeed she had committed those heinous crimes. But of course, nobody, not Trump, not anyone around Trump's inner circle, not his attorneys, actually did what they accused them of doing. Okay? If Trump or Sidney Powell or any of the attorneys or any of the Republicans in the Fulton County indictment had actually done what they were accused of doing, all of them would receive prison time, including Powell. But, like I keep saying on this channel, the absurd, apoplectic leaps of logic made because people don't like Trump's personality. I mean, what was wrong with record low poverty with Trump and record highs in household median income, bringing home Americans with the Doha Agreement? What was wrong with that? Do you like what's taking place now? Interest rates through the roof, the economy on thin ice, and then foreign policy catastrophe and disaster everywhere we look with mashed potato brains, our president. So here, former Trump attorney Sidney Powell took a plea deal on Thursday, one day before jury selection in her trial. Why it matters? She's the first in Trump's inner circle to enter a plea deal and admit to crimes. Yeah, she admitted to crimes that resulted in a misdemeanor. Okay? So, she got a misdemeanor. Let's see here. Axios. She was fined. She pled guilty to 6 misdemeanor charges, which are a traffic violation in Georgia is a misdemeanor. We can look right here. Traffic violations are most likely misdemeanors in the state of Georgia, which carries penalties of $1,000 fine or 12 months in jail. Okay? And so they accused Trump, and here the Atlantic, you can read these really absurd headlines, but here, hit subscribe, first of all, to this channel to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, other publications. Go to hagoodman.com. To my super thanks, that's below, thank you. And to the new Patreons, thank you. If Trump was truly guilty of a huge problem to democracy, is now systemic. Trump is now a systemic issue to American democracy. Yet one of his top attorneys only got misdemeanors. And the special counsel is no longer looking at one of his largest super PACs. Gee, there goes the wide, sprawling Byzantine labyrinth of criminality. So this is what happens. You have not only the Atlantic, but the Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, New Yorker, New York Magazine, Daily Beast, all these publications make grandiose leaps of logic, hyperbolic headlines. Trump's menace to democracy is now systemic. And we know it's systemic because Sidney Powell pled guilty to misdemeanors. Brookings, did Trump damage American democracy? I don't know. Why don't you ask Bernie Sanders, who was railroaded by the Democratic Party, cheated. Why don't you ask Bernie Sanders, who was the DNC primary was a complete and utter farce and theatrical performance. How about Democrats with Bernie Sanders in 2016 couldn't even have a functioning primary? But let's talk about democracy and Trump. And then they blamed the Kremlin for letting you know how terrible they were. The DNC emails showed that it was not a fair or neutral primary, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign in disgrace. So then you tell me, Trump indictments tells disturbing story of a traitor. Oh, and one of his top attorneys got misdemeanors, not prison time, for trying to overthrow democracy. And we can look, special counsel Jack Smith withdraws a subpoena into one of his top super PACs. Gee, I wonder why. The Save America PAC? Hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars it raised for Trump. You mean you can't find any criminal behavior? That's bizarre. You've indicted everyone around Trump. Couldn't you find something? Oh, that's right, because you're going after Trump politically. You can't. That's why he's tied. He was up with Biden. I have no clue how these polls even show Biden up by any margin, but Biden up one. Trump's indicted 4 different times. He has 100% negative media coverage 24/7, and still they're tied. Even if Biden was only up 1 or 2, it would still be terrible. Clinton was up 2 the last day in 2016 and then lost to Trump, like I said. I was one of the only people. It was me and Sticks, X, and Hammer and all of YouTube to say that Clinton was going to lose to Trump. There were only 2 people, ladies and gentlemen, in all of YouTube. And so, how is this even possible? You can look at Trump is indicted 4 different times. He has virtually 100% negative media coverage, and still Mashed Potato Brains is only tied with him, with the full strength and public relations support of the entire Democratic Party, Hollywood media, social media algorithms, all these things. But you look, ladies and gentlemen, and all you'll hear is Sidney Powell pled guilty. Yeah, she pled guilty to misdemeanors. Okay? Misdemeanors. Pled guilty to 6 misdemeanor charges relating to efforts to interfere. So you mean interfering in the manner that Sidney Powell and Trump did is only a misdemeanor? I thought that this is how you should look at this, ladies and gentlemen. They make leaps of logic, apoplectic, absurd, stupid leaps of logic. These are by the people who are the morally superior, highly educated among us. They say that Sidney Powell and Trump and Giuliani and everyone around tried to overturn and overthrow and form a rebellion and destroy democracy and tarnish our pristine way of life. And then the reality is the special counsel isn't even looking at his largest PAC. And all of these, he'll get convicted. Trump will get convicted because the media and the local courts are stacked against him in certain locations. These convictions will be overturned the way the Supreme Court overturns corruption convictions all the time. One, well-known corruption conviction that was overturned, well, one in New York, actually, but in Virginia, the Virginia governors in 2016, his corruption conviction by none other than Jack Smith, by the way. None other than Jack Smith. But anyway, she pled guilty to misdemeanors. If a misdemeanor is all you get for allegedly committing all of the atrocious crimes that Trump is alleged to have committed, what does that tell you? It tells you that they're making very absurd, hyperbolic, apoplectic, stupid claims, leaps of logic that they can't back up. That when the entire weight of a state's legal system and media is leveled against Sidney Powell, for example, who was front and center with every allegation and claim that Trump made. She was front and center. All they could come up with are misdemeanors. essentially traffic violations in the state of Georgia. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now.